Michael Waltz, member of the Armed Services Committee. Colonel, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
This had been a worry for a while that Russia would escalate and hit a NATO member. That was what was thought early, but now it looks as if it was a Ukrainian missile and it was a mistake that it went into Poland. Crisis averted?
Well, look, we can see these trajectories from our space-based assets or satellites and even our airborne assets. So I think we saw pretty early on with the way things were worded and everybody kind of hitting the pause button that we needed to get to the bottom of exactly where this came from. But I do think, guys, this is a wake-up call for those that want to just stick their head in the sand and do nothing when it comes to Ukraine. Is actually a recipe to get our soldiers involved if Putin starts attacking, slices through Ukraine and starts attacking NATO members. They will invoke Article 5. That does obligate us by treaty to then have U.S. boots involved and on the ground. That's why if the Ukrainians are willing to do the fighting and dying and they're asking for the beans and bullets, we need to make the Europeans do more. We need to provide better oversight, but just pretending it's not a problem will lead to things like this.
Congressman, if the Russian army lived up to the hype, and if the Ukrainian President Zelensky actually took that ride out of the country and left like Gahani, there's no doubt that Russia would have been rattling the cages of Moldova and the Estonia, all the Baltic nations, and maybe even started pressuring Poland and started messing with their elections, if not direct military conquest. How have things changed since Ukrainians decided to fight and beat the Russians, who are a hollow bear?
Well, the world has seen now that when it comes to things like leadership, discipline, training, logistics, maintenance, their industrial base, that Russia is a hollow bear. They are being sidelined as a conventional military force. They still have a very viable nuclear threat. But again, we have a major world power that is now being sidelined so that we can focus on the greatest threat this country has ever faced, and that's the Chinese Communist Party. And the brave Ukrainian people led by Zelensky have done that. But the Europeans have got to step up. I want to make that point loud and clear. Once again, the United States is taking on this burden of helping defend freedom.
Yeah, Germany's not doing what they said they're going to do. France is not doing what they said they were going to do. We're the ones who are writing the checks, and they got to publicly pressure them to do what they're supposed to do.
And I'm not seeing that from Biden. I'm not seeing that at all. We're essentially everyone's patting themselves on the back to an extent, and Germany hasn't delivered a fraction of what they promised.
Well, India buys their oil, and they get nothing but pats on the back as well.
Congressman,
and China, 60% increase of business and trade with the Russians. They're basically propping them up with their own technology, propping them up economically, and essentially we get a kumbaya from Xi and Xi and Biden, as old pals, and we should have had a finger in their chest.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And we should be putting sanctions in place.
Yes, about that, and we need COVID origin answers. We're just not strong. I know. Congressman, So last night, we're watching Sean Hannity's show, and Trump stands up at the podium in Mar-a-Lago and says, I'm back. I'm running for president in 2 years. There's some others that maybe we speculate, or there's been rumblings that they might be running as well, like Mike Pence and Ron DeSantis, Youngkin, Hogan, Asa Hutchinson, Tim Scott, Pompeo, Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie, just to name a few. Anything can happen, but what's your reaction to this?
Well, to your point on anything can happen, I mean, a lot of people thought Tom Cotton would be on that list as well, and made for his family. So, we're going to be rife with speculation. We don't even know if Joe Biden's going to run at this point. But I got to tell you what, I thought that speech last night was incredible, guys. It was focused. It was disciplined. The tone was serious because we're in a serious moment in world affairs and in our country right now. And I think if the president stays forward-looking, outlaying how he's going to build on his agenda and his accomplishments, I think he's going to have a very good run. One of the lessons from from this midterm is that people want results. They're tired of the rhetoric. They want results that they're going to feel on their kitchen table, and they want to feel more secure in their lives, in their cities, on the border, on the world stage, and economically. And I think the president makes this a security election and about security in our lives. That's going to be a winning formula, and I'll support getting back to that America First agenda all day long.
Well, he certainly got in early. It's 721 days before the election, so stay tuned.
Yeah.
In the meantime, there's an election coming up in your chamber, House Republican leadership elections, and so far, the Speaker nominee, Kevin McCarthy, and then you've got Steve Scalise running unopposed, the GOP whip, Tom Emmer of Indiana, Conference Chair Elise Stefanik, and the Chair Richard Hudson ran unopposed as well. You know, we heard that behind the scenes, the Freedom Caucus was, pushing at Leader McCarthy. What was going on? Mm-hmm. What did they want?
Well, look, a lot of it is, kind of the mechanics of how our conference works, how we decide what bills go to the floor, when amendments are accepted, who our committee chairmen and women are, and they want transparency there. They don't want all of the power to be in the hands of just a few. I think those are reasonable demands. McCarthy's listening to those demands, and he got, I think it was something like 170 to 30 in terms of, our support for him to be our speaker. And folks, that's different than January 3rd, where he needs to get 218 out of, say, 220. So we're going to continue to have a lot of internal family discussions so that we can get there. He can be speaker and we can move the country forward and get accountability from Afghanistan to COVID origin to on down the list that so many people are demanding.
So there's some horse trading going on behind the scenes in the run-up to the official election.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we elect him as our speaker, and he needs to get 218. If we end up with a majority of 220, that's tight. That's going to be a lot of conversations, but I think he's going to get there.
A couple of things. Andy Biggs has got, about 40 votes or something like that? So would he have a shot? Is there anybody else viable? Probably not. There's about 10 seats left. Where do you guys think you're going to end up? Right now, you're technically 217. Kevin Kyler looks like 218. Where do they think you're going to end up?
220, 222. Sadly, this is up to California vote counting, which never gives me a warm and fuzzy at all. I think that's one of the things we got to take a hard look at is we need to know these results on election night. We need to have confidence in our democracy and our republic. And when you have foreign actors looking to muck around, that are mucking around inside of our election, we need, not to say we need to make America like Florida, but come on.
Right.
We knew within hours.
California needs to change their state voting laws then, because what's going on is completely legal.
Nevada, on down. And then, we need to do some soul searching in terms of why we didn't do better on our messaging, but also, look, we need to, I think, move somewhat away from this same day from accountability or from showing up to vote. Mail works for our rural voters.
Absolutely.
Mail works for our senior citizens. If you do it right, you have integrity. Mail can really work for us and has in the past.
Well, Trump said last night he would want voter ID, same day voting. We find the results that night, and paper ballots. But isn't it up to each state?
Yep.
If he won, would he be able to impose that?
No, each state.
No, that's right. It's up to the states. The states determine how elections are conducted. It's in the Constitution. I don't see some of these blue states, and we need to figure out how to fight on that battlefield and how to get our rural and our senior citizens and our other voters with integrity to vote as much as possible.
Okay.
I don't think we can put all our eggs in
the harvesting is crazy.
a basket.
All right.
Congressman, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Colonel.